An amazing invention, the modern camera can be used to film home videos, with America's Funniest Home Videos hitting American screens in 1989. To the amusement of viewers across the globe, this program captured comical situations and mishaps. Some are staged, others are not. The results are hilarious. From a virtual army of ducks to the girl who cries crystal tears, here are 15 unbelievable moments that, if they were not filmed, no one would believe it. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos every day. That being said, let's begin. Number 15. Ducks Army. A literal army of ducks marched their way down a busy street in Kerala, southern India. The incident was caught on camera on July 20th in 2014 as a mass of ducks completely stopped traffic in its tracks. It was reported that the ducks were being shifted by their owner to a more conveniently located field due to the heat. Unfortunately, he lost control of them and they ventured out together on the streets. The traffic resumed after a short period as a group of residents shooed the ducks away and off the road. After the video was uploaded, the internet went crazy, many praising the ducks for their ability to stay organized and almost in formation for the entirety of the journey. The people that actually witnessed it at the time were also just as impressed. "Look at the birds marching together. They know more decorum than us humans," one amused eyewitness said. Number 14. Girl cries crystal tears without any injury. We now move on to something truly bizarre but oddly unique at the same time. In Lebanon in 1996, a video was recorded of a young girl who had the ability to cry tears made of crystals. Of course, the internet has since blown up over this, and there are thousands out there that truly believe this to be some sort of miracle, while others think it's a hoax, much like many other early internet videos and theories. It was bizarre because these shiny and rather sharp fragments were leaving her eyes and she didn't seem to feel any pain whatsoever. Not to mention, there was no blood. After seeing an eye specialist, there was still no official conclusion drawn, with the doctors left just as baffled by the unusual phenomena as everyone else. In fact, they had little to no explanation for her and her family, who were unsurprisingly quite concerned by the incident. 20 years on, and this remains a mystery. Sure, we have video evidence of it happening, but how legitimate is the footage? There are plenty of ways that this video could have been falsified, but if it was true, it's pretty cool, don't you think? Number 13. Cat has thumbs. In September 2018, the YouTube channel The Dodo posted a rather heartfelt video that told the story of Bronson the cat. This special cat was one that a couple adopted when they had previously intended to adopt a new kitten from their local shelter. Bronson was a massive cat, and they soon discovered that he weighed 33 pounds. Obviously, this is incredibly overweight, and that would be the case for any cat of any breed. The couple still took him in though, and they soon grew to love him. They noted that he was a gentle giant and had plenty of sass. Several months on, and Bronson's new family and Bronson had worked hard to help him achieve his weight loss goals. At 3 years old, he is currently still working towards his goal of 15 pounds, but because he gets plenty of exercise, it shouldn't be long before he tips the scales in a good way. His family used his food as a way to get him moving, either by placing it far away or even getting him to climb the stairs a few times a day. He clearly transitioned into his new home well, and his family seemed to be cherishing him, and so too is the internet. In fact, he's become a bit of a sensation. When the video of Bronson was posted, many people noticed that he actually had visible thumbs and could grab his toys a lot easier than many other cats, or for that matter, animals in general. It's a small detail, but many would agree that it further adds to his cuteness and his character. Take a look if you have time. He's one gorgeous kitty cat. Number 12. One-way bus. We now delve into a funnier side of unbelievable moments captured on camera. This clip was truly unbelievable. It lasts only 17 seconds or so, but there's so much going on within the shot. The video begins with a still shot of a murky-looking street scene. All seems pretty chilled out at first, and you might even be relaxing at this point. All of a sudden, there's a loud horn that can be heard from the distance. The horn is continuous and doesn't stop. A massive bus appears from nowhere with multiple individuals running away from it. As the bus gets closer to the camera, its contents become more visible as there are people filling it up on the inside and outside, with many hanging off the side wielding bats. Scary. If I was the videographer, I would have left the scene by now, but no, he is clearly committed to the cause. The vehicle sways from side to side violently and, at one point, almost looked like it could tip over. The camera pans around 90 degrees as the bus disappears into the distance, the horn still sounding very loudly. Was it a party bus, revelers from a crochet tournament, or simply a group of thugs? What do you think? Number 11. Forests are angry. This is another short clip, but incredible nonetheless. The camera is positioned facing a very picturesque looking forest. The silence is broken by the sound of a very big landslide heading toward the tree line. A rapid and massive landslide made up of dirt and rocks strikes the forest and begins knocking trees down with so much force that they are ripped clean out of the ground. The trees and other contents of the forest seem to have no effect on the landslide as it continues to fly at an almost death-defying pace, crushing almost everything in its path. It eventually stops just short of where the camera's positioned. Barely 10 seconds pass and there's a second landslide approaching. This time there's nothing in the way of it and it heads towards the camera and the people that are behind it. They scream and move back very quickly as it clears over the rails and towards the people. What happens next is unclear as the camera goes out of focus from such rapid movements, and all that can be heard is slight static and crackling coming from the camera malfunctioning. Another angle is then presented on the screen. It's a side view that shows the landslide heading towards the people who remarkably escape. There are, however, a number of vehicles parked out in front of them, and all of them are eaten alive with ease. Not sure how anyone's getting home, but it's safe to say it won't be by car. Number 10. Landslide. This next clip is said to be one of the largest landslides in history, and it's easy to see why. If you take a look at the footage, it seems to be set on a very large mountain and captured from quite a distance away. The landscape looks impeccable, like most mountains observed from a distance. However, a visible volcanic eruption occurs at the base of the mountain, and after a few seconds, nearly half the mountain begins to collapse and slide downward. It's a terrifying visual as there's so much rubble and smoke visible, and it's literally nearly an entire mountain falling towards the ground. If anyone was about or even close by, their fate would be sealed. But it wouldn't be a lot of fun if you were there or were still underneath it. Number 9. Crazy Trains. This clip is fairly humorous upon first viewing, but it also looks to be a little scary and dangerous at the same time. The clip is basically CCTV footage of a regular city street, plenty of traffic and people making their way around. There are train tracks at the center of the shot, and as you've probably already guessed, they are the main focus of the shot. Like most comedic videos, everything appears completely normal at first. A man is seen crossing the tracks, and as he makes it across, what appears to be a white tanker speeds past. This tanker looks like it has somehow detached from a train. Shortly after the tanker is passed by, a line of cargo containers flies past as well. It too seems to have detached from a train somehow. The people around don't seem very concerned, but it's blatantly obvious to the viewer that something just isn't quite right. Shortly after that, the video changes to another shot where the tanker returns, and it seems to be picking up pace as it crashes through a couple of cars at the crossroads and continues on its merry way, leaving a devastating wreckage behind. Although it looked pretty funny, no one appeared to be concerned with what happened to the train. There isn't really any explanation as to how these pieces of cargo were able to get away and how they managed to pick up so much speed in the process. Did it detach from the train at the beginning of the journey, or did someone give it a really good shove? Number 8. Lightning. If you happen to stumble across this clip without reading the title, then it's very likely you'll need a spare change of trousers. There's only one shot in this clip, and it's completely still for the entirety. It shows what looks to be a home or lodge of some sort set in a small neighborhood with plenty of trees, all of which are swaying slowly in the wind. This continues for an uncomfortable amount of time before the silence is shockingly broken by a massive strike of lightning, which inadvertently hits the most central tree closest to the house. The tree is almost immediately destroyed by this strike as the top of it falls to the ground with many branches, leaves, and bark following. It was rather shocking, but it was also a very impressive sight that you wouldn't see every day. It was all over and done with pretty quickly, but one has to ask how different things would have been had the tree not been there. It most likely would have struck the house and possibly set fire to it in the process. So yeah, a pretty impressive sight, but also a stroke of good fortune for the homeowner as well. Get this family a lottery ticket. Number 7. Burning steel. Industrial zones are always dangerous places to be around. The equipment and machines that are used are highly useful in creating a faster workflow, but they can also malfunction, resulting in injury and sometimes death to workers. Luckily, this short clip didn't involve either of those things, but it very easily could have. The shot is of a high enough angle so that everything around is visible. There are workers walking around like normal until, out of nowhere, a white-hot steel beam reaches up almost 2 stories in little time and launches from the rollers. It flows outward for at least 5 to 10 seconds before coming to a stop and hitting the ground. Everyone was very cautious and shifted out of the way well beforehand, so nobody was harmed in the end. Most of the workers kept very calm throughout the ordeal and continued about their business soon after. Number 6. 65 million failures. We all know how painful it is when your money goes to waste. Some people know how it feels to see their money literally go up in flames. Metaphorically so in this particular case, where a space launch for Proton M went horribly wrong in 2013. The launch of their rocket took months of preparation, and they spent over $65 million on the mission. Video was captured of the launch, and it's heartbreaking to watch so much work and money go up in smoke within a moment's notice. The rocket launches eventually with a heck of a ruckus, as you'd expect from most launches. It eventually lifts off and everything looks well. It reaches higher and higher, but all of a sudden, it picks up speed and starts veering off in different directions. Slowly but surely, it turns sideways and starts to rotate more until it's in a downward position. Not the way a rocket should be pointing, considering it's just launched. At this point, it is now plummeting towards the ground. After only being in the air for a few seconds, the top of the rocket breaks off and evaporates before the rest of the rocket bursts into flames. It finally hits the ground and explodes on impact, causing a massive spectacle of smoke and flames. Fortunately, no one was on the rocket at the time. Number 5. Big explosions. Castle Bravo was a big part of Operation Castle, which took place in Bikini Atoll. Castle Bravo was one of the first of many high-yielding thermonuclear bombs. These bombs were extremely dangerous and toxic upon detonation. On March 1st, 1954, many people's worst fears came true when the bomb was detonated. It was a horrific sight, and when all was said and done, the aftermath showed that the bomb was an estimated yield of 15 megatons of TNT, rather than what they had initially believed to only be around 6 megatons. This yield made it the most powerful nuclear bomb created and detonated by the US. The effects of the blast were felt straight away by those on nearby islands, as many suffered from radiation sickness and poisoning. The worst part was that many of those that ended up being affected by the blast weren't aware until days after the fact. The crater that was left by Castle Bravo is absolutely astonishing and really goes to show just how powerful it was and how much devastation it could cause. Number 4. Angry employee. Some pretty crazy CCTV footage came to light of an office worker absolutely losing his marbles while working away in his cubicle. The footage was recorded and saved in 2008 and shows multiple people working in a cubicle-separated office space. The coworker in question is sitting near the middle wearing a black suit of sorts. It's not exactly obvious what sets him off, but the closest thing is the man next to him who knocks some papers off his desk. Whatever the reason, the guy absolutely flips out and starts hitting the man viciously. He then turns and pushes his other work neighbor aside, brushing papers from his desk in doing so. He then throws a computer monitor at the desk across from his. He takes a moment to pick his papers back up off the ground, but in a fit of rage, throws them at the people behind him. This guy is truly bonkers. He hurls another monitor across the room before stamping on the desks around the outside of the room. He then proceeds to pick up a large object. He threatens his coworkers with it before proceeding to smash the cubicles within an inch of their life. Another Another worker manages to defuse the situation by forcing the weapon off him and knocking him to the ground. He doesn't stay down for long, however, picking up a table and throwing it around. He is then tackled and knocked to the floor again before the clip concludes. This video was pretty rough, as the worker was in an absolute fit of psychotic rage. But most copies of this video have some silly backing music, so it's hard not to chuckle at the shenanigans going on. Let's hope everyone was okay and said their apologies before going out for a beer or two. One can only imagine what happened next. Number 3. Lucky Man. A shocking piece of security footage can be found online of a man who avoids certain death twice in the span of 5 seconds. The footage is in black and white, so it's a little hard to see, but you can make out a man standing on train tracks and walking down them slowly. A train appears out of nowhere from behind him and he jumps out of the way, the train missing him by literal inches. He sits up and catches his breath, knowing he's barely clung on to life. However, he soon realizes that in the process of avoiding the train, he had jumped onto the other set of tracks. Another train comes barreling towards him. He's quicker this time and gets out of the way, but the train still only misses him by mere inches. It's a good thing there wasn't a third set of tracks in close proximity, or we might have bared witness to an intense game of human Frogger. Number 2. Heavy Meat. This clip is easily one of the most unfortunate and unluckiest circumstances on this list. A truck driver arrives with a load of fresh meat and then proceeds to back it up safely so that it can be unloaded. There's a gentleman behind who notices the cargo's tipping slightly, and before the driver and spectator know it, the entirety of the cargo port collapses right before their eyes, with every ounce of meat on board falling to the ground. It's extremely unfortunate, but rather humorous, as it's just one of those things you would never expect to see. It's a big world out there though, and with the power of social media and the rest of the internet at our fingertips, it's not hard to stumble upon the truly bizarre from time to time. Number 1. Military helicopter. This has gotta be one of the worst helicopter landings you'll see for quite some time, maybe even a lifetime. A group of soldiers are sat inside the chopper as it starts to make its landing. However, the pilot seems to have great difficulty with this, as they seem to be able to touch the ground with the wheels, but struggle with keeping it stable enough to plant the rest of the helicopter. In just seconds, the helicopter is hovering just inches from the ground and spinning around in circles at an increasing rate of speed. One of the back wheels hits the ground, providing enough force to tip the aircraft over. If that wasn't bad enough, the propellers are still spinning, and the helicopter begins to spin around on the ground until the propellers snap off completely. By the looks of things, nobody was harmed, and thank goodness the helicopter didn't explode. There are definitely some lessons to be learned here, not to mention questions around who they put in the pilot's seat from now on, wouldn't you say? Video footage of unbelievable situations is often what it takes to convince people that something really did happen. Fortunately, even phones these days can capture a film or two, depending on their memory limits. And it's a good thing too, because for the cynics amongst us, definitive proof is often not only needed, but required. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time!